Diego spent $1 million on fireworks for his newly hired secretary, and he still had the nerve to send me a message. Zoe, when we hit our 10-year anniversary, I'll give you a firework show. That was what I had wanted 10 years ago. Back then we were broke, after signing the marriage papers. We lit sparklers instead. Now, watching fireworks light up the entire sky. I scrolled back to our wedding announcement video from 10 years ago, took a screenshot, and posted it on my feed. In the end, this is how it turned out. That night, Diego didn't come home. The next morning, I had a divorce agreement express delivered to his office. Along with it was a slow mail letter I had written 10 years ago. In it, Diego's own handwriting asked, "Today, do you love Zoe a little more?" Chapter 1. The moment the divorce papers arrived, Diego called me immediately. "Zoe, what tantrum are you throwing this time? Always bringing up divorce, do you think that's funny? You're 30 now, not 3. Can't you be a little more mature?" His voice seethed with anger, every word filled with blame. Before I could reply, I heard a girlish, playful voice in the background. "Diego, don't be mad. I'm sure sis didn't mean to upset you. Maybe it's just that she's getting older and moody. Just coax her. She'll be fine." Diego's tone sharpened, even more furious. "Shut up." Then he turned back to me and shouted, "Zoe, I'm coming home right now. We'll talk about this face to face." Chapter 2. The call had barely ended when a notification popped up on my feed. A girl under the username Flowing Stream, always cute, posted 3 updates in a row. Boo-hoo. Big brother actually yelled at me. Punishment, he won't see my smile for a whole week. Photo, Diego's CEO office. He apologized, said the wife at home was being dramatic again. Told me to behave and not cause trouble. Fine. I'll forgive him. Photo, 2 cups of bubble tea. Big brother has to go home to coax that old hag again. Women over 30 are just so much trouble. Not like me, I only know how to care for him. Photo, affair. Innocent profile shot. She was Diego's new secretary, Jessica. 3 months ago, Diego urgently needed a file and asked Jessica to come to our house to pick it up. I happened to be home that day. She was barely in her 20s, with light makeup, pale cheeks, rounded apple-like dimples. Her high ponytail swayed as she walked, and in her sporty casual wear she looked like a fresh-faced college girl. After picking up the file, she smiled and asked to add me on WeChat. I didn't think much of it, so I agreed. Before leaving, she clung to my arm affectionately. "Zoe, what's your beauty secret? You don't look like you're pushing 30 at all. No signs of age whatsoever. Unlike me, I'm only 20 and I already see fine lines under my eyes." She smiled brightly, her gaze brimming with sincerity. I gave her my practiced professional smile. "It's simple. Don't say what shouldn't be said. Don't do what shouldn't be done." That night I told Diego about Jessica. He laughed and teased me. "What? Jealous? She's just a rookie, green and inexperienced. Relax. She's no threat to you. Besides, HR hired her. You know how transparent our company procedures are. Come on. Don't you trust your husband? We fell in love at 17, married at 20, and it's been almost 10 years now. Nothing can break what we have." I stared at the man swearing so earnestly before me. The vows of youth still rang in my ears. True love conquers all. But no one ever warned me, true love can also create all the obstacles. Chapter 3. Yesterday marked the company's 9th anniversary. It was also the day our profits officially broke 10 billion. As vice president, I should have been there, but a major client in the South had an urgent contract issue, and it had to be resolved immediately. Diego couldn't leave, and since we had signed this client together over 5 years ago, only I could reassure them. Even though I was vice president, I had gradually delegated responsibilities since last year. Entering pre-pregnancy mode, I only participated in company affairs occasionally. This trip, however, I felt confident. I settled everything and came home, exhausted, falling straight into bed. What I didn't expect was that last night's company celebration would turn out to be so spectacular. At 10 o'clock, Diego called to check in. "Zoe, I won't be coming home tonight. The old employees want to celebrate until 3 in the morning. You worked hard today, rest well." I had complaints on my tongue but swallowed them. 9 years since the company's founding, once a tiny family business, now the leading enterprise in Jiangqing. Those employees who fought alongside us all the way truly deserved a night of indulgence. I only reminded him, no smoking, less drinking, we're still trying for a baby. As you command, my dear wife. His call left me wide awake. That red notification dot on my feed practically begged me to click it. Amid the flood of posts, I immediately locked onto Jessica's. He said if he couldn't give me all his love, he'd give me a sky full of fireworks instead. Attached, 9 live photos of $1 million fireworks show. In the fireworks, the letters of a name's initials were clearly visible. I opened the first live photo. A deep, lingering male voice sent a chill through my body. Little Jessica, is your 18-year-old wish finally fulfilled? It was Diego's voice. At that same moment, Diego sent me a voice message. Zoe, tonight's company fireworks show was beautiful. On our 10th anniversary, I'll give you a show that belongs only to you. The same tone, the same voice, but this time, missing the tenderness, missing the passion, unwilling to believe it. I returned to Jessica's feed and opened the second photo. Brother, are these fireworks just for me? The third, yes, only for little Jessica. The fourth, but this is clearly the company's fireworks show, it can't just be mine. The fifth, the celebration wasn't supposed to have fireworks. I ordered them just for you. The sixth, be good, they're only sharing in your glory. 9 live photos, shattering every illusion I had about love. I stepped out onto the terrace. From the 18th floor, the entire city of Jiangqing spread beneath me. Blue and violet fireworks bloomed against the sky. Jessica's updates kept coming. For the love I cannot say aloud, let it drown in the sea of fireworks. As if mocking me, 10 years ago, I too had wished for a fireworks show that belonged only to me. Chapter 4. Back then, Diego and I had just graduated from university. He studied software engineering, while I majored in economics. He dreamed of starting a tech company. And me? I had passed the civil service exam back home. Coming from a small town, we had no backing, no connections. Everyone around us mocked Diego for being unrealistic, chasing castles in the sky. But when he looked at me with hopeful eyes, I didn't hesitate. I threw away my iron rice bowl job and followed him to Cloud City. The poorest year of our lives. We registered our marriage. His eyes welled with tears as he told me, Zoe, I'm sorry. Once we make it big, whatever wedding gift you want, I'll make it up to you. At that time, I still loved watching cheesy romantic dramas. The male lead always confessed his love under a sky full of fireworks. So I told him, I want a fireworks show that belongs only to Zoe. That day, we played a clip of fireworks from a TV series, lit sparklers in our hands, made vows of forever. Now, nearly 10 years into the company's history, Diego could easily afford hundreds of fireworks shows. And yet, he arranged $1 million display not for me, but for his mistress. Now when I replayed the video from the day we got our marriage certificate, that girl smiling sweetly at the camera, holding a sparkler, looks so naive, so laughable. Turns out it doesn't matter how deeply two people once loved each other. The ending always comes to this. All those signs had been there all along, only I blinded myself, refusing to believe. The sound of the door lock turning pulled me back. Diego was home. Chapter 5. His anger seemed to have cooled. Zoe, stop making trouble, please? In his hand was a pink envelope. It was the proof of love we had left behind 10 years ago at a slow mail shop in Shanghai. Back then, I had pouted, demanding to see what he had written, but he hugged me tightly, whispering in my ear, Zoe, 10 years from now, I'll give you the answer. His warm breath, the trembling of youth, a memory that could still make me blush and my heart race. In that letter, he had written down my contact information, and now, 10 years later, that surprise had become a cruel joke. I looked at the envelope and asked him, Diego, today, do you love Zoe a little more? His expression faltered with some awkwardness. He said, of course. I pressed, of course what? He replied, of course I love Zoe. I asked again, and who, exactly, loves Zoe? His face darkened with irritation. Zoe, why are you becoming more and more dramatic? Diego loves Zoe. Are you satisfied now? I took the envelope from his hand and unfolded the yellowed paper. Diego, 10 years ago you wrote, "Today, do you love Zoe a little more? But 10 years later, you don't love me more because you gave your love to someone else." He rubbed his temples impatiently. Zoe, we're not children anymore. Can you stop being so emo? I've said it before, in this lifetime. I'll only love you. You will always be my one and only wife. I opened Jessica's live post again. Diego's low, unmistakable voice played clearly. Little Jessica, has your 18-year wish finally come true? Be good, everyone else is just basking in your glow. Diego snatched my phone as soon as he heard it. Zoe, what's the meaning of this? You had me followed? But when he saw it was Jessica's feed, he rushed to explain. That kid said she'd never seen fireworks before. As her boss, I just wanted to fulfill her wish. His explanation was laughable. So you ordered her $1 million fireworks show? Diego, how generous of you. You've read the divorce agreement, haven't you? If you've got no objections, just sign it. It was only when he saw how determined I was that he realized I meant it. He rubbed his brow anxiously, his tone laced with frustration. Zoe, don't throw a tantrum, please. I swear with Jessica there was nothing improper. It's just, she reminded me of you 10 years ago. Clumsy, silly, with that reckless courage. The fireworks, it was because she mentioned it had been her wish at 18. And it reminded me of you. At 20, with the same dream. So I agreed. Everything I did was really for the 20-year-old you. And I told you already, on our 10th anniversary. I'll give you an even grander fireworks show. I can't understand men. Why does the makeup gift meant for a lover always end up being given to someone else? Even when your wife is right here. I didn't know how to reply. I crouched down, burying my head into myself, holding back sobs, but trembling all over. Diego wrapped his arms around me from behind. Zoe, give me a little more trust, won't you? From school uniforms to wedding gowns, you ran to me without hesitation. I'll never betray that love. Anne. I have good news. Chapter 6. He held my palm tightly. His index finger kept rubbing over my wedding ring. Before I came back, Noah called me. He said you're pregnant. Diego and I had been trying for a baby for more than a year, but no good news ever came. Just a week ago, we had gone to the hospital for another checkup. The doctor was our mutual friend, Noah. We had all been college classmates. He was even Diego's best man at our wedding. Now, this good news, delivered by an old friend. If not for Jessica, it should have been beautiful. I slowly lifted my head. Tear stains made my whole face look more haggard. Diego, what did you say? He gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. Zoe, we're having a baby. We're going to be parents. A bitter smile twisted my lips. When a father loves the mother, then a child is willing to come into this world. Diego, do you think our baby really wanted to come? He pulled me tightly into his arms. Zoe, what do I have to do for you to believe I love you? I pushed away, meeting his eyes head on. They say a man's love lies where his money lies. Isn't that right? He seemed to catch a glimmer of hope. Zoe, everything I own is already in your name. What more do you need to feel secure? I sneered softly. Diego, you run a company. Surely you know how marital property is actually divided. Perhaps it was guilt from his betrayal, or just a desperate attempt to prove his love and keep me steady enough to bear his child. That very day, under a lawyer's witness, we signed a marital property agreement. It stated that all properties under our names would belong solely to me, and he would no longer have any rights over them. We also filed notarization and official transfer of ownership. 1 week later, I held 5 houses, 3 storefronts, and $5 million in savings. On the surface, Diego and I maintained peace. This tiny embryo became the only bond keeping a shattered marriage together. I no longer mentioned Jessica. He pretended I had never spoken of divorce. Instead, he started telling the nanny to make me nutritious meals. Every day he showered me with flowers, handbags, jewelry, clothes. Men really are pathetic. 2 weeks later, Noah called to remind me to come in for a prenatal checkup. In the ward, his voice was hoarse. Zoe, how have you been lately? Chapter 7. I ignored the lingering gaze he cast over me. Everything's fine. He knew about Diego and Jessica. That phone call he had made to Diego, it wasn't just to congratulate, but to warn him. Zoe is pregnant. It's time to stop. After the checkup, Noah gave me plenty of instructions. And finally, he added quietly, if anything happens, call me anytime. I'll always be on your side. I smiled and thanked him, then walked away. In truth, Noah had met me first, before Diego. Back in our freshman year, I joined the campus newspaper. I worked as an editor. Noah was the photographer. After half a semester, he asked me to see a movie with him. Sensing his feelings, I immediately told him I already had a boyfriend. When he heard Diego's name, his eyes widened. Zoe, are you just using Diego's name to reject me? Because I know Diego. We're on the basketball team together. He told us he didn't have a girlfriend, and he even accepted drinks from other girls. That night, Diego and I had our biggest fight ever. To clear things up, the three of us confronted each other. I asked Diego, why did you say you didn't have a girlfriend? Was it so you could flirt behind my back? Diego raised both hands in mock surrender. My dear wife, you wrong me. I only said I didn't have a girlfriend because my advisor was on the court at the time. I wanted into his data lab. I was afraid he'd think dating would distract me from research. I turned to Noah. Was that professor really there? Noah smirked reluctantly, then nodded, and gave Diego a hard punch on the shoulder. You had a girlfriend. Why didn't you just say so? Diego jabbed him back in the chest. I called you brother, and you tried to steal my girl? Diego and I were high school classmates. He confessed after the college entrance exams. We knew each other's roots. Our youth bound us. I chose to believe him. Noah and Diego ended it with a one-on-one basketball game. When they were too exhausted to move, lying on the ground, the issue was finally dropped. After that, the three of us became close friends. Noah did one thing most often, taking pictures of me and Diego. He was, in a sense, the witness of our love. Now, looking back after more than 10 years, those flimsy explanations seem laughable. How childish, to mistake tricks of disloyalty for proof of love. When I got home, Diego's voice message arrived quickly. Zoe, I'm sorry. Today's client was too important. I'll definitely go with you for the next checkup. I replied, okay. At the same time, Jessica's feed lit up again. Thanks to Big Brother for taking me to Disney despite being so busy. Today, I'm officially the sweetest little princess in the universe. The picture showed her in a Snow White cosplay, holding out her hand to the camera. A man's long fingers clasped hers. His ring finger was bare. Only a pale circle remained where his wedding band used to be. Perhaps in Diego's mind, giving me all the properties was enough to keep me in his little game. I was supposed to spend 10 years of marriage shackling myself, retreat to the family, bear his children, and play the blind fool. If it had been 10 years ago, when I was 20, when love was my whole world, I might have broken down completely at his betrayal. But now, with a decade of experience, I am no longer a fragile flower. I've grown into an oak. I can shield myself from the storm. I can take revenge for myself. If Diego is busy entertaining an important client, then I should also go see mine. Chapter 8. After a pleasant dinner, I came home. Just as I took off my coat, Diego hugged me from behind. The sweet citrus scent on him made me nauseous. I shoved him away and rushed to the bathroom to dry heave. He followed, gently rubbing my back, murmuring, "Be good, baby. Don't torture mommy, or when you come out, daddy will spank your little butt." Since the day I lost all faith in him, his fake tenderness has only seemed laughable. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Diego, what makes you so sure this child is even yours? The smile on his face froze instantly. I chuckled coldly. Relax. Just a joke. No need to get so tense. He fumbled, making a few fake gestures to cover his panic. Zoe, that's not funny at all. I patted his shoulder. Weren't you always the one good at jokes? What? Now you can't take one? How will you face important clients then? Hearing my jab, he sat me on the sofa. Zoe, today's client really was important, but I didn't forget you. Look, this is the new D collection necklace. 200,000. I bought it outright for you. Men always try to compensate the wife with luxury after cheating. I lazily toyed with the sparkling necklace between my fingers. Diego. Actually, I also met an important client today. He perked up. Who? I feigned mystery. A senior from Jian University. 4th year. He said he wanted to be my assistant. Now that I'm pregnant and can't manage everything at the company, I do need one. Diego's brows furrowed. A junior? That's inappropriate. If you need help, just tell me. I'll assign you a girl. Much more convenient. I sighed softly. Too bad. When I look at him, it's like seeing you 10 years ago, poor but burning with sincerity. He couldn't find work, and I wanted to help him, as if making up for the you I once knew. Diego's hands froze on my shoulders, anger leaking into his tone. Zoe, listen to yourself. Hiring is about ability, not charity. And if you want to make it up to me, hello, I'm right here. Why give it to someone else? Oh, so you do understand that principle. I ended it there. Diego's face flushed red. Zoe, that's not what I meant. After fumbling, he muttered a weak sorry. But what good was that? The Zoe whose whole world was Diego had already died the day he betrayed me. Chapter 9. It was our 10th year together. Our 7th year married. Our company, Star River Tech, launched an AI chat app that blew up overnight. Big corporations extended olive branches for partnerships. At a private business club, Angelo from Xinjiang Tech sent Diego 2 young models. He rejected them firmly. Angelo, offended, made a scene. Unfortunately, Jessica, then just a 19-year-old part-timer waitress, was caught in the chaos. Terrified, she shrank behind Diego, sobbing softly. A pretty young girl, crying, yes. It stirred sympathy. That very night, Diego arranged for her to stay at the villa. How do I know? Because Mrs. Angelo told me. As Diego's wife and company VP, I was the perfect target. Angelo wanted revenge on Diego. What better way than to disturb his home? When I saw the photos, I only smiled faintly. Mrs. Angelo relayed Angelo's wish to cooperate with me privately. I shook my head. We are husband and wife. Our honor and disgrace are shared. Cooperation will have to wait. She gave me a thumbs up. Big heart. You'll accomplish great things. Later, she and I became friends. I pretended not to know about Jessica. When Diego suggested I step back from the company to focus on conceiving, I agreed. Friends said I was wasting my winning hand. But what good was fighting? That night, I cried until my body went numb, until my fingers stiffened and my mind went blank. For the first time, I felt what it was like to brush against death. My grief pushed me into respiratory alkalosis. But if I divorced him, what would I get? Only half of the assets. And what would Diego get? Freedom, a clean divorce, then marriage and children with his mistress. Soon he could be ringing the Nasdaq bell. People would only say he was a successful man, envied by all. Cheating? Just the mistake all successful men make. They'd even call his young mistress a blessing. Why should they build happiness on my pain? No, I would take everything from him. Chapter 10. After muttering sorry, Diego's apology grew softer. His kiss fell on me without warning. I instinctively pulled away. What's wrong? Didn't get enough outside? The lust in his eyes died instantly. Zoe, don't push me. I gave you this job, this family, this comfortable life. Don't forget, you'd be nothing without me. Just an orphan, a cursed star who killed her parents. So this is where his love ended. He knew exactly how to stab me where it hurt most. Not being able to take care of my parents, my lifelong regret. After graduating college, against their wishes, I followed Diego 3,000 kilometers away. A year later, after our wedding, my parents died in a car crash on their way home. Diego had handled the funeral, holding me as I fainted with grief. Zoe, I'll be your home from now on, forever. Your parents in heaven will be at peace. And now, 7 years later, he said I had killed them. Love or not, it's clear enough. I slapped him with all my strength. Diego, let's divorce. He froze, then, red-eyed. He muttered, Zoe, stop it. The company's already giving me headaches. And now you want to wreck our home too? Besides, we're having a baby. Can't you stop talking about divorce? I laughed, bright and sharp. Exactly. And that's your punishment. You brought this on yourself. He stormed off to the guest room with his blanket. And me. That night I slept peacefully. For the first time since knowing of his betrayal. Chapter 11. The next morning, when I woke up, Diego had already gone to the company. Assistant Bruno called. Boss. About our acquisition of Xinchuan Tech, should we move forward? I sipped my hot milk. Push it, the faster, the better. After breakfast, I met with Oliver, head of Xinchuan's tech department, employee number 0005. He had worked for the company for 8 years, yet was still just a team leader. Colleagues who joined 2 or 3 years after him had already become his supervisors. Over the past 2 years, as I gradually lost my voice in the company, Diego began his so-called optimization, and the ones he most wanted to optimize were the veterans. He said their salaries were too high, their skills outdated, unlike the fresh grads, cheap, obedient, and easy to control. When Oliver saw it was me, he grabbed his bag and turned to leave. Starlight Tech. I said, "You'll be the CTO." He immediately sat back down, looking like he was walking into battle. It's not that I wanted to defect, but Diego's optimization list had my name on it. So I slid a document across the table, an employment contract with Starlight Tech. At the bottom was my signature. His mouth fell open. "Zoe, you're the boss of Starlight Tech?" I nodded. "And the one who stole away our client of 5 years?" I nodded again. Last time, during the company anniversary, I had gone on that business trip precisely to snatch that deal. I hadn't planned to stage such a big scene, but Jessica had danced her way right in front of me. So I simply went with the flow, taking Diego's assets in broad daylight. I reached out my hand. "CTO. Join Starlight. I have plenty of funds, dedicated solely to RD. Xinchuan Tech, these days, was stuffed with useless wine bags and rice sacks." The tech department weakened, while HR doubled down on rankings and layoffs. At this rate, they were doomed. Oliver asked timidly, "Boss, can I bring my team with me? I'll roll out the red carpet." Soon after, word spread through the industry. Xinchuan Tech is about to be acquired. Its founding team has all resigned. Jessica's moments went completely silent. Diego didn't come home for an entire week. Not long after, Bruno called again. "Boss, Diego from Xinchuan Tech wants to meet with you about the acquisition. When are you available?" "Set it for 3 days from now, at 2 p.m. That morning, I happened to have a prenatal checkup. Chapter 12. For once, Diego actually offered to accompany me to the prenatal checkup. Ever since the last time I brought up divorce, he hadn't been home, just the daily calls, asking if the baby was being good, sometimes reminiscing about our early startup struggles, his voice even choking up a little. How laughable. At the checkup, the baby was already over 4 months. The outline was clear. Noah pointed at the ultrasound and told Diego, "Definitely long legs, must have inherited from you." Diego is 185 centimeters tall. Back then, part of why I fell for him was indeed his height. I stroked my belly and gave a wicked smile. Not necessarily from him though, right? Both men froze. I stood up. My legs are pretty long too. Both exhaled in relief. This little game was quite entertaining. After the checkup, Diego asked Noah, who was off duty, to drive me home. As we watched Diego's car drive away, I curled my lips toward Noah. "Come on, let me show you a good show." At the top suite of Shinua Court, the state banquet chef Diego had personally invited had already laid out the dishes. I arrived a full hour late. When Diego saw me at the doorway, his brows instantly furrowed. "Zoe, there's a time and place for tantrums. I'm in the middle of business here." "Noah, are you indulging her too? Hurry up and take her home." His anger bounced between me and Noah. I ignored him. Assistant Bruno stepped forward by the main seat. Diego immediately switched to fawning mode. "Assistant, when will your boss arrive?" Bruno ignored him, pulled the chair back slightly, and looked at me. "Boss, please take your seat." Diego shot me a glare. "Zoe, don't block the way. Let the boss in." Noah glanced around, slightly surprised. "Diego, there's no one outside." As Diego stood frozen in shock, I sat down at the head seat. "Diego, I hear you want to discuss the acquisition with me? Chapter 13. Diego still refused to believe it. He kept asking Bruno again and again. She's really your boss at Starlight Tech? Bruno's tone was cold. Diego, if you want to talk cooperation, show some sincerity. Our boss is busy. Honestly, your company's scraps weren't worth our time. It was only because you kept calling to beg for a buyout that she reluctantly agreed. Diego turned his gaze toward me. So all those big clients, you were the one who snatched them away. But I don't blame you. We're husband and wife. What's mine is yours. So let's just merge Starlight Tech into Xinchuan Tech. Together, we'll be the industry's #1. His defeated face now glowed with excitement, his words tumbling over each other. I tapped the table with one finger. Slowly, Diego, I think you need to understand, what we're discussing today is an acquisition. Bruno placed the acquisition contract on the table. Diego's face darkened after reading it. Zoe, Xinchuan is a massive tech company. After the buyout you want to shrink it to a little department? It's your child too. How can you be so ruthless? Mentioning the child, something seemed to click in him. He half-kneeled by my feet. Zoe, our baby is almost 5 months now. You shouldn't strain yourself. Just hand the company over to me. I know you resent Jessica, but I've already made it clear with her. I'll fire her. Let's raise this child together, okay? I toyed with the pink diamond on my little finger. Diego, you don't seriously still believe in some family reunion, happy reconciliation fantasy, do you? His fake smile froze. I went on, honestly, I don't care much about today's acquisition. Xinchuan's investors are pulling out, right? And all your core staff have already jumped ship, which actually works out perfectly for you and Jessica. Didn't she always say she wanted the company to belong to just the two of you? Well now, it's down to just you two. Isn't that nice? I shook off his hand clinging to my foot, but he grabbed my calf instead. Zoe, I never did anything with Jessica. She came on to me, but I always kept my distance. I only pitied her, treated her like a sister. Don't believe her lies. How skilled cheaters are at shifting blame. I shot Bruno a look. He immediately had the bodyguards drag Diego further away. I dusted off my clothes leisurely, then looked him in the eye. Nothing happened? You don't actually think I only found out through Jessica's moments, do you? A year ago, at the villa on the outskirts, Jessica was already there, wasn't she? While you coaxed me into quitting to prepare for pregnancy, you were busy with your little lover. Did you really think I was some naive fool? Diego, I had the courage to stand by your side when you had nothing but dreams, and I have the strength to throw you away when your heart wandered. Did you think cutting me out of management would mean Xinchuan could go public under your hand? Dream on. Without me, you're nothing. Just then, Diego's phone rang. It was Jessica. Chapter 14. He hung up. Then it rang again. After more than a dozen times, Diego finally snapped and answered. Furious. Can you stop making a scene? I'm in the middle of an important business deal. From the other end came loud sobbing. Brother, a lot of people came to our house to collect debts. I'm scared. Didn't I give you $2 million already? My dad gambled it all away. Then deal with it yourself. I don't have money either. Diego's strength drained instantly. He collapsed to the floor. Moments later, he crawled toward me. Zoe, help me. You don't want the baby to be born without a father, do you? If you help me through this, I'll stay home full-time as a house husband. You work outside. I'll take care of the home. My stiletto heel pressed down on his hand as he tried to crawl closer. Diego, what makes you so sure this child is even yours? Chapter 15. Diego turned to Noah, eyes desperate for confirmation. Noah coughed lightly, his voice hoarse. Diego, your medical report shows a 99% abnormality rate in your sperm. Even if conception happens, it usually ends in miscarriage. Our first child was 5 years ago. The company was at a crucial stage then. I felt nothing, just suddenly lost the baby. 2 years later, the same thing happened again. The doctor told me my body was fine. Most likely, the problem lay with the man. I pushed Diego to get checked many times. He always refused, using work as an excuse. Looking back, it was just his fragile pride. Ridiculous. Over a year ago, we started trying seriously. Still nothing. Finally, Diego grudgingly got tested. The results: defective sperm, low motility. The only chance was IVF. He said he didn't want me to suffer, that he'd get his body back in shape first. But instead, he turned to a younger Jessica. During that so-called treatment, he often tried to sleep with me. I refused every time. A rotten cucumber, what right did he have? Half a year ago, Noah said Diego's sperm had just enough vitality for artificial insemination. Everything went unusually smoothly. I longed for a child, for family, but that child could never be Diego's. With Noah's help, I went abroad for donor insemination. At the right moment, Noah told Diego the good news. Diego thought he could use the baby to bind me, to keep his public wife at home while flying flags outside with lovers. But I used the baby to mislead him, until he lost his wealth. His company collapsed, and only the mistress remained. When the truth came out, Diego lunged at Noah, fists flying. Noah, I treated you like a brother, and you ed my wife you. A string of curses, but Noah didn't fight back. I knew his reasons, but I refused to let Diego throw filth on me. The bodyguards pinned Diego in front of me. Diego, I'm not dirty like you. The child came from a sperm bank. He has nothing to do with either of you. Diego deflated like a punctured balloon, eyes bloodshot. Zoe, how could you be this ruthless? Don't you remember our 12 years together? He was the one who cheated, yet he tried to flip the blame. Diego, the moment you brought Jessica into our villa, our so-called years of love ended. All that from school uniforms to wedding gowns, a joke. I've already filed for divorce. If you care at all, then at mediation just sign and end this marriage. I smiled wider. And if you don't, no problem, I have plenty of ways. By now, the power in this marriage was entirely mine. Chapter 16. The acquisition deal never closed. Diego fired a large group of employees, yet he still remained the CEO. Jessica was promoted to vice president. A company of 2 people, strangely enough. It almost looked legit. For a moment, I felt transported back more than 10 years ago. Back then, our company was also just 2 people. I carried multiple roles at once: sales, finance, administration, HR. I wondered if his pampered little mistress could ever endure the hardships I once swallowed. But none of that concerned me anymore. 10 days later, I received the divorce certificate. All assets were now under my name. Because of the marital property agreement Diego had signed before witnesses, he left with nothing. Out of some leftover sentiment, I let him keep that disgusting suburban villa. But I heard it didn't last long. Jessica secretly sold the villa, and the money went straight into her gambling father's pockets. Diego refused to move out. The new owner's thugs physically dragged him out and tossed him at the gates. He was half naked, only wearing blue boxers. He fell into the flower bed, mud filling his mouth. That video trended locally for an entire day. The man in the footage bore no resemblance to the boy in my memories. To drink with osmanthus, to share wine in youth, but never again. Those days of carefree wanderings. I shook my head, waved farewell to the past. Zoe was marching toward her battlefield. Chapter 17. I was busy with Bruno, preparing for Starry Teka's IPO. Noah texted me daily, asking me out for dinner. I rejected every single invitation. Unexpectedly, the usually reserved man cornered me at the company entrance. Zoe, if you need it, I can be your shoulder. Don't bottle everything inside, it'll break your health. If you'd allow it, I'd like to be your salvation, to accompany you through these darkest moments. He seemed to think I was throwing myself into work only to escape the failure of my marriage, as if the world only wanted to see divorced women live like pitiful shadows. I offered him a perfectly measured smile. Thanks, Noah, but I think I no longer need a shoulder. Life isn't a redemption novel in the lowest valleys. The only one who can save me is myself. Walking out of a 10-year marriage, I've realized money and power are the best skincare for women. His eyes flicked to my rounded belly. But a child needs a father, doesn't he? I'm willing to. I cut him off before he could pierce the veil. Noah, mother and father are roles, and roles are defined by love. What a child needs isn't a picture-perfect family, but complete love. I know how to love, and I know how to give this child all the love I can. I said no more. He could only force a polite smile. Zoe, I wish you the best. If you ever need me, I'll always be here on your side. I walked forward, but not far ahead. I saw Diego. He was wearing a worn-out suit, walking quickly toward me. Noah jogged past me, whispering, Zoe, the last thing I can do for you is to make sure Diego never bothers you again. And Noah kept his word. Half a month later, I went to a prenatal checkup with my best friend. At the hospital, we ran into Jessica. My friend's gossip radar immediately picked up heavy news. Jessica had suffered a natural miscarriage 2 days earlier. The doctor had suggested testing the man. The man had flat out refused. Jessica insisted her husband had no problem. She even cursed the doctor as a quack. The two of them made a minor spectacle at the hospital. But that chaos had nothing to do with me anymore. I placed my hand over my belly. Leaving the wrong relationship is the only way to rebuild happiness. My little one, you are the family I chose for myself. Mom will give you all the love in the world. All I wish for you is joy. Extra Chapter 1. The first time Zoe saw the photos of Diego and Jessica tangled together, she couldn't breathe. She refused to believe that the man she had loved for 12 years could betray their bond. But the truth was merciless. After rejecting Angelo's offer of cooperation, she returned to the empty house of her childhood. Her parents had died in a car accident not long after her wedding. The man who had once promised her a home, Diego, had turned her into a complete joke. She hated Diego for his fickleness, his wolfish, heartless betrayal. She hated Jessica for her twisted morals and shamelessness. But most of all, she hated herself for trusting Diego with all her heart, for even giving up her position in the company just to bear his child. When her emotions consumed her, she dragged the knife hard across her wrist. The world felt like it had abandoned her, leaving her utterly alone. Her spirit had shattered the moment she learned of Diego's affair. Maybe leaving like this wasn't so bad. Her limp fingers brushed against her phone. The screen lit up on a random livestream. A female host was answering questions from the scrolling comments. Question: should a 24-year-old graduate student marry a man 10 years older? Answer: absolutely not. No, no, no. My God. Don't you dare. The host was furious. Zoe didn't quite understand why this stranger was so emotional about someone else's life. She picked up the phone. The host's name was Miranda. Bio: remarried and divorced again. Left with nothing. Zoe's interest was piqued. How could a woman stumble so hard in marriage and still face life with such fire? She listened quietly to the rest of the stream. Tears shimmered in Miranda's eyes as she shouted at the camera. If you go, it's a dead end. Why am I angry? Because for a girl to get into a master's or doctorate program, to climb this far on her own, it's incredible. We can achieve economic independence by ourselves. You can achieve social value, climb in status. At the top of the pyramid, more women need to stand there and speak for us. Not everyone can climb that high, but women's voices in society need both those at the top and those of us at the bottom working together. Don't throw yourself into a trash relationship so easily. If you give up like that, it's such a pity, truly, such a pity. The word pity was spoken softly, but it struck Zoe's heart like a bell. She thought of how hard it had been to climb from her small town to where she stood now, escaping the grip of grandparents who only valued boys, scoring first in her town to enter the county's best high school, earning admission to a top university, graduating and founding a company, then losing her parents too soon, left without support. Every step she had taken was built on her own strength and effort. So why should she give all of that up? Just because of a cheating man? Why should she surrender her life and everything she fought for? Why? When Diego had betrayed her, shouldn't she instead reclaim everything that was hers? Extra Chapter 2. Zoe went to the hospital to bandage her wound. She told Diego she was on a sudden business trip and would return in 2 days. Busy sneaking around with Jessica, Diego didn't notice a thing. During those 2 days, Zoe devised a meticulous plan. The company had been built step by step by her and Diego. She knew every client inside and out. Now, Diego, at the peak of his career, had been convinced by whispers that Zoe should step aside and return home. Very well, she would play along. On the surface, she would relinquish power. In reality, she would build her own empire. She would not become a parasitic vine. Life had tempered her into an oak tree, She would stand at the top of the pyramid. She wanted women who shared her struggles to see. No one, nothing, is worth abandoning ourselves for. Only by holding our own destiny in our hands does life become better. Surpassing Xingchuan Tech was only a matter of time. Ironically, Jessica's petty provocations ended up helping her. Extra Chapter 3. Jessica deliberately added Zoe on WeChat. She hoped Zoe would be the one to ask for a divorce. But to Zoe, who had already faced death once, these antics were nothing more than the shameless theatrics of a clown. Still, she could make use of Jessica, stirring Diego's guilt. Zoe deliberately displayed pain, feigned reluctance, and conveniently mentioned artificial insemination. It kept Diego wavering between Zoe and Jessica. In the end, for the sake of keeping the child, Diego transferred all of his assets to Zoe. Deprived of his right hand, his company collapsed. Left penniless, he would never have children. Burdened with a gambling father, he would sink into poverty. The retribution awaiting Diego and Jessica was already on its way. Extra Chapter 4. 10 months later, Zoe gave birth to a mixed-race baby girl. She named her Sophia. The road ahead was long, but her heart was at peace. She wished only that her precious daughter would always be healthy and happy. After her confinement, Zoe founded Rebirth, a women's support organization. It offered full-spectrum help to women trapped in marriages scarred by infidelity or abuse. Yet unable to divorce, it provided seed funding to women rebuilding their lives after divorce. 5 years later, Starlight Tech was listed on the Nasdaq. A brazen journalist asked, "You're 36 and still unmarried. Is it because you've lost hope in marriage and can only be a career woman? And why is it that most career women end up divorced?" Zoe gracefully took the microphone, her smile radiant and poised. "Replace can only with choose to, and then your question will be worth answering, because we women now have the strength and the right to choose happiness. And I want to tell every sister who has shared my experience, divorce does not mean unhappiness. The moment you choose divorce is the beginning of a new happiness." After the interview, Zoe's newest boyfriend came to pick her up. Fresh out of university, just 22, he was remarkably skilled at giving emotional support. She found him amusing. On the way home, Zoe posted a line on Weibo. "No matter if you're 20 or 30, choose someone who is already a good person.